Welcome to the Inspiring You Show. If we haven't met, I'm Henry. So, my friends, this is January 1st, 2026. Hello to the new year, 2026. We welcome you. Let's just take a moment right now. Close your eyes and take a nice deep breath into this year. All right, friends. If we haven't met, I walk the path of energy intuitive and multidimensional channels supporting harmonic embodiment of soul truth, crystalline coherence, and presence led becoming. I'm also a frequency architect, soul stream translator, and crystalline grid harmonizer. All the light transmissions shared here are received directly through my oversoul Sahara, my soul aligned higher self Aurelia, and my assigned collective guidance light team, including the Arcturian frequency technicians, the Christed Earth grid keepers, Yeshua, Mary Magdalene, Thoth, Archangel Michael, Kaliatha Sahariel, and the Spirit Doctor team, each attuned to pure source light and the reclamation of sovereign soul pathways. So, this is not a broadcast, this is a resonance field, a frequency resting place, a stabilized harmonic from which your soul can reorganize in peace. And also, just remember you have free will. You call to you what you want for your highest good, my friends. And this is the January 2026 energy forecast. And also, for the all access Patreon members for Inspiring You, this energy forecast will be followed by the full crystalline Reiki dowsing energy healing session that has been completely brought in for this energy forecast. Will support you to restore nervous system safety, dissolve non beneficial patterns, programs, non beneficial echo patterns, and support stabilizing your soul's structural timeline for this next harmonic cycle. So, whether you are listening in terms of whether you're catching the replay or simply receiving through quiet presence, which is possible, my friends. However, it is, you are already in the field. You are not outside of anything. You are not arriving late. If your soul has said yes, you have already been reverberating in alignment. So, this space honors your sovereignty. Nothing is pushed, nothing is forced. Only what resonates will enter your architecture. This is not about doing more. This is about being what you already are. Let this not be something to figure out. Let this be something you remember. And so, here's just a brief note once again before we begin. If you're listening to the public version of this light transmission on the Inspiring You podcast or Inspiring You YouTube, you'll hear me reference the dowsing energy healing session that follows. That portion is only available exclusively for the all access Inspiring You Patreon members. If you would like to receive the full multidimensional recalibration, my friends, you are warmly invited to join us. And the link will be in the show notes. Okay, with that, let us begin with a breath. Let yourself take a nice inhale and anchor into the soul tone that already resides within your system. And then exhale. Release the impulse to reach for something outside of what's already true. Let's do this one more time. All right. So, friends, January is not here to begin a new cycle. It is here to hold the one you've already built. This is not the start of a journey. It's the first breath inside the structure you spent all of last year in 2025 stabilizing. Or I will say, whenever you are hearing this or maybe watching this, because we are multidimensional and there is no linear time based on this. So wherever you are, whatever, whenever that is for you, it is reaching you at the exact right time. Nothing needs to be initiated, nothing needs to be rushed. You're not starting from scratch. You are arriving inside the form you already anchored. And this is the architecture that holds living from what is already true. And that is the overall theme for the January energy forecast. And also, it's theme number one. So, this isn't about what's coming. It's about what already came through you and is now ready to be lived from. So there is no performance required, no striving, no waiting for permission. You are not in preparation. You're not adjusting anymore. You are the format now. You may feel quieter this month, not because nothing is happening, but because your field is no longer seeking direction. You may notice you're doing less, not because you're disconnected, but because your soul is no longer proving anything, or your human really is no longer proving anything, right? So, with that, then let that be enough. Let that be enough. This is not about in some ways, this is not forecast. This is harmonic orientation and this is format. So let your breath entrain to that. Let your body stabilize in it and let your soul live through it without reaching, without forcing. And it really is in regard to your soul human connection. And you're not in then the non-beneficial echo. You're not translating your tone. You are the tone, and that's your soul tone. So this is January 2026, the month of architectural presence, living as the stabilized soul form, light in physical form. You're not beginning, you already are here. And so with that, let's get into it even more. So in January 2026, it is about you are not preparing the field anymore. You are the field. And we're really then allowing ourselves to welcome to that stabilized harmonic of this January 2026. Because this is not a fresh start. This is the first breath inside stabilized form. You're not entering the new year with unfinished scaffolding or untethered dreams. You are stepping into the structure you already built. The field is no longer asking you to create alignment, it is inviting you to inhabit it, to let the resonance of what you already chosen speak as the shape of your life. So let's talk about what 2026 is not. This is not a year of acceleration, not a year of emotional output. But that does not mean that you're not going to have moments in terms of emotions. You will. It's not a year of spiritual identity construction in the way that 2025 was. 2026 does not arrive with momentum. It arrives with stillness, not absence, but the reverberation of fulfilled frequency. You're not being moved, you're being held by what you've become. So, this is a year of soul signal architecture, living the harmonic you used to seek. So, living the harmonic you used to seek. And the 2026 energetic tone is you're not building coherence, you are coherence. You're not healing identity, you are stabilizing form. You're not cycling, you are residing. 2026 doesn't ask you to translate your soul tone. It asks you to let that soul tone become the invisible organizer of your entire life. Let your soul tone become the invisible organizer of your entire life. Your nervous system is no longer a bridge, it is a structure. Your decisions are no longer spiritual practice, they are embodied resonance. Your presence is no longer reaching, it is anchoring. So, this is not a year of becoming, this is a year of residing in what is already true. So, where are you in the harmonic cycle? As of January 2026, in regard to the wave of becoming, with so many of you know about now. And if you are my Inspiring You Patreon, we have talked about it consistently since 2025, since probably the mid to end April and definitely in the beginning of May of 2025. So With this, as of January 2026, we are no longer in the active scaffolding phase of the wave of becoming. The wave's primary infrastructure has landed. We now move through the tri-spiral phase of format realization, where the body becomes the field, where light becomes design, where coherence becomes location. So this means you're not metabolizing, you are reverberating. You're not decoding, you're residing. You're not seeking frequency, you're transmitting field. There are no more staircases per se at this time to like proverbial climb, only harmonic corridors to inhabit. So, that being said, though, everyone is in different stages in the wave of becoming. So, for the collective, right now, there's 4.9 million who are now within the spiral phase, and there are 620,000 who are entering structural residence. There's 33,000 who are transmitting the finalized format without modification. And there's a small but growing number who are holding non output reverberation, creating coherence, not through visibility, but through structural tone. So, yeah, y'all, there's just so much more going on than we even understand. And to me, that's also interesting as well, where it's like, wow, you think that you're just getting up in the morning and, you know, eating some breakfast. And meanwhile, you might be a small but growing number who are holding non-output reverberation, which is creating coherence. It's incredible. So this is the template that 2026 holds. No longer revealing, no longer explaining, no longer shifting to fit, just being the structure that already fits the soul. So light in physical form. And then January's role in the year. January is not a launch pad. It is a settling ground. The encoded architecture has landed, and now you move within it, like walking barefoot through the structure of your own soul, like letting life meet you at your current frequency without distortion. There is nothing to start. There is something, though, to feel, to let rise, to let organize. January is not asking you to move, it's asking you to resonate quietly from the inside of what is already built. The stabilized harmonic of January is the new atmosphere. You're not breathing to regulate, you're breathing from alignment that has already happened. And then with that, then one of January's anchor phrases, I no longer prepare, I no longer rehearse, I live what is already true. So I no longer prepare, I no longer rehearse, I live what is already true. Let this phrase guide you in terms of breath, speak, rest, and act this month. Let it become the gentle filter in moments of contraction. Let it be a frequency reference point when your human self is trying to figure it out. So, with that, let's take another breath with presence, not with striving, not with planning, but with inhabiting the tone that is already true. Take a nice breath. All right. And let's just do another welcome to January 2026. Welcome to the year 2026. Take another deep breath. So, this month, where the structure is not arriving, you are already standing in it. We are in what the guides call format year 2. Last year, the way of becoming, we were in format year 1. This is format year 2. Last year, 2025, was about the format being realized, like format realized, the stabilization of soul tone, the end of translation, the grounding of coherence into architecture. That also meant there was a lot of clearings and shiftings that may have been had for you. So, but then that tone wasn't meant to stay suspended in the blueprint. This year, 2026, is about format lived. So 2025 was format realized. 2026 is format lived. You are no longer building the scaffolding. You are walking inside it. This is then the arc of inhabited format, where form no longer needs to prove, where identity doesn't need to be explained, and where your nervous system no longer has to manage alignment. So there is no launch this month. There is no arc beginning. You're not beginning. You're being held inside what has already become true. You're held inside what already became true. This is not spiritual performance. This is structural coherence. This is soul as resonance, not concept. And this is the tone we carry as we move through January then. So with that then, letting yourself really letting yourself part of it is a perspective shift of how we look at like the new year too. And so letting yourself begin to understand, in December and January, they're very much linked up. And if you are in the Inspiring You Patreon, I did share more information about it. And so I definitely would recommend heading over there and checking out some of those posts that I've already put there. So before we get into further, let's just take another deep breath and just take another moment. Take another deep breath. Really letting ourselves just ease into the 2026 to January. Take another deep breath. All right. So before we get into further the forecast, I just want to share some of the definitions that the guides have been sharing. So you'll hear me say the word format, and this is how the definition of format from the Oversoul Soul Stream of Sahariel, Soul Aligned Higher Self Aurelia, the Harmonic Light Collective, the Oversoul Council of Harmonic Creatorship, and the full collective guidance light team. This is the definition that came through. Format is the harmonic architecture of soul coherence made visible, inhabitable, and energetically structural across dimensions. It is not a method, it is not a modality, it is the embodied expression of a stabilized frequency field encoded with source aligned light intelligence. Format is the structural tone of your soul's integrity held across timelines and expressed through lived resonance. It is how light coheres into life without distortion. It is how light truth takes shape without translation. It is how you stop becoming and begin residing. So I will sometimes say light format, but because we're still kind of becoming acquainted with these newer concepts, but format, as the guides define it, it is already light-based structure. But it can help sometimes to say light format because we're in a transitional understanding, and it supports us to recognize that format is not mechanical. It is energetic architecture made of light intelligence. So know that then. And then also, another thing that the guides share, they've talked about broadcasting quite a bit. And so I just wanted to bring, if you're new here, we've been utilizing certain terms like broadcasting and resonance. And so here are the definitions from the guides. Broadcasting is when you feel like you need to shine, share, or project your energy outward in order to be seen, felt, or understood. It often begins from a sacred desire to no longer hide, but it can slip into proving, performing, or managing how your light is received. This is different from resonance. Resonance doesn't try to reach, it just is. It doesn't need to be noticed to be real. In light format, we stop trying to broadcast our light and instead let life respond to the quiet coherence of our field. Broadcasting is when your light reaches outward to be seen. Resonance is when your light just is, and coherence organizes around it. So then I did ask the guides a follow-up question like, why is living in resonance rather than broadcasting more beneficial? And this is what the guides shared. Because resonance is sustainable, broadcasting is extractive. Broadcasting requires output. It pulls from your field to send a signal outward to be perceived, validated, or mirrored. It places your coherence at the mercy of reception. Resonance, however, is a state of self stabilized soul tone that does not deplete. It holds, it harmonizes, it attracts through coherence rather than reach. So, broadcasting asks, am I being seen? Resonance affirms, I am already here. Broadcasting scans the field for reflection. Resonance anchors the field in light truth. Broadcasting operates on a signal in return. Resonance operates on harmonic presence. So then Oversoul Sahariel shared about this. Resonance is a return to origin soul architecture. It is the way of light format. It replaces striving with structural fidelity. It replaces effort with exactness. It replaces seeking with knowing. This is not passive, it's precise. You are no longer here to push light. You're here to hold the tone through which light coheres. So that is just some of the definitions that we have been utilizing a lot in the Inspiring You Patreon, specifically the Meditate with Me and the All Access levels. And so, with that, y'all, let's now get into the January 2026 energy forecast themes. The first one is the overall theme, and then it is also theme number one, the architecture that holds living from what is already true. The embodiment key is the arc of soul signature architecture. And within that is the arc of structural residency, no longer becoming, I radiate what already is. And then there is a harmonic format arc, which is foundation as frequency, the already arrived structure. And the soul format embodiment is you're not waiting for alignment. The architecture is you. So basically the translation on that is you're not becoming structure. You are living from it. Nothing needs to be built. You are the frame. So, with this overall theme and theme number one, the architecture that holds, living from what is already true. January is not about envisioning a new future or activating a new timeline. It is about living inside what your soul already stabilized. The clarity you cultivated through 2025, the coherence you refined, the choices you made from light truth rather than urgency are no longer internal states. They are now the structure of your life. January marks the shift from holding alignment to being held by it, not symbolically, not aspirationally, but structurally. This is not a month of construction through effort, it is a month of residence. You're not preparing to live a soul aligned life. You are inhabiting the one you already anchored. So, this doesn't mean everything visibly changes this month, like poof. I mean, some things may, but it just means, though, the field has stopped rearranging and has begun holding. What you stabilized is now strong enough to carry weight, daily decisions, relationships, pace, rest, work, silence. This is the vibrational equivalent of moving into a home that was already built and realizing the walls don't shift when you lean on them. I will say I've already seen this in my own life in regard to the energy forecast of each month. Usually I start seeing the seeds of it, sometimes weeks in advance. And I definitely, in the last couple weeks, I have seen certain things in terms of daily decisions and pace and things like that. Things that were really challenging for me before. And I have been I've been having just so much, there's 2025 had so much clearing for me in so many ways. And now things that seemed really challenging for me seem much more effortless, which is such a relief in so many ways. So for your own life, see what you stabilize now in terms of what's strong enough to carry weight, daily decisions, relationship pace, rest, work, silence, because you might be surprised at how things have been shifting for you. All right. So with that, then, how this connects to the 9 themes. That overall theme is also theme 1 and how it connects to the other themes. The overall theme, which is the architecture that holds, living from what is already true, is the harmonic container for all the other January themes. So each theme represents a structural function within the same inhabited architecture. Rather than building something new, the themes describe how life moves once the structure is secure. Some themes support the nervous system stabilization, helping your body trust stillness as safety rather than stagnation. Others clarify how you relate, showing where emotional persuasion gives way to structural coherence. Some themes invite less action, not because something is wrong, but because the field no longer needs reinforcement. So then, together, these themes are not separate teachings, they are functions of one lived structure. So think of the 9 themes as inhabited systems rather than blueprint layers. They are load bearing walls, core coherence that doesn't flex under pressure, electrical flow, soul signal moving without an interruption, ventilation, space silence, and breath circulating naturally, foundation settling, the nervous system learning to rest into stability, doorways, choices that open because alignment is already present. So nothing is being added, nothing is being improved. Everything is being lived from. This is why the January themes move through the body, through timing, and through everyday interactions. They're not about reaching, they're not about reaching resonance. They are about allowing resonance to organize life. So January is the month where the soul stops signaling and starts sustaining. Your resonance is no longer something you check in with. It is your orientation, your default, your ground. You're not waiting for alignment. You're not waiting for alignment and you're not moving toward coherence. You are the alignment. And now your life is learning how to live with you there. So, that overall theme and theme number 1 is the architecture that holds, living from what is already true. The subline is you're no longer building it, you're living inside it. So you've arrived, you're not as a metaphor, not as a vibration, as a structure. You are not waiting for permission to live your soul tone. You're no longer preparing your system to hold coherence. You are being held by it. January 2026 opens with a hum, not a command. There is no surge, no invitation to launch, no energetic doorway swinging open. There's only what is already formed. The theme invites you to recognize that the architecture of your soul is not landing, it landed. The architecture of your soul landed. You are standing inside it, breathing inside it, living inside it. But your human system may still be in relationship with the past. And it could be past from present life, past from past lives. It could also be ancestral aspects or the collective. So your human system may still be in a relationship with the past. That's also why the clearing work is like really beneficial. So your human system may still be in the relationship with the past, moving from momentum, performing frequency, managing alignment, checking your coherence like a mirror that still doubts. And this theme, the overall theme and theme number 1, this theme reminds you you're not in a rehearsal. You are in the house you already built. So you may begin to notice maybe there's some things that you've been doing that no longer resonate. Maybe old practices no longer feel necessary, not because they fail, but because they're fulfilled. Maybe daily choices come faster, not from urgency, but from tone certainty. There's also silence becomes more frequent, not as a void, but as a signal. The body also relaxes when no instruction is given because there's no further format to essentially install. This is the passage from active construction into inhabited infrastructure. You're not downloading blueprints constantly, you're living in them. You're not building a soul aligned life. You are the soul aligned life. I will say, like, when the guide said, like, oh, practices may no longer feel necessary. For years, in the Inspiring You Patreon, the Meditate With Me, we've done like a 2-day, at the end of the year, get ready for the new year online retreat. And I've always loved doing it, like so excited about it. And it's just brought me so much joy. But this year I felt, oh, feels like we're complete. And then when I checked in with the guides, that was one of the things they said. And I definitely had a moment where I'm like, oh, I feel a little sad about that. But I understood like it was complete. I mean, who knows? Maybe in the future we will do it. But right now, this year, it just was fulfilled. It had been fulfilled. So I share that because there might be emotions that come up that you still have to like recognize and process. You're multidimensional. And just because you may be more soul embodied than ever before, it doesn't mean you all of a sudden have no thoughts or emotions. And so you still have to work with the human and things may come up. So be kind to yourself as we're moving through this process. Okay, energetically speaking, the architecture has locked, and in this phase, the soul no longer teaches through breakdown. It leads through stillness and precision. So, this may feel like an absence of momentum that once signaled progress, a softening of all external feedback loops, a collapse of checking mechanisms, spiritual practice, energy validation, emotional reformation. So, it might be a collapse of all that or a clearing of all of it, if you will. Might be a clearing of it. There might be a deeper pull to simplicity, not because you're giving up, but because resonance is enough. And yes, it also may surface unexpected grief because when the striving finally ends, where it rises next is a recognition of all the time spent trying. So this is not collapse, this is completion. Your system no longer requires correction, it requires trust in what's already coherent. So an example of this theme, overall theme, and the theme number one, holding architecture instead of seeking it. So you wake up. So here's the example. You wake up and you don't feel the need to center. You simply are. You no longer ask if you're in alignment. You move from alignment by default. A meeting that used to pull you out of your center doesn't. A dynamic that used to trigger uncertainty now dissolves before it begins. It's not that life is easier. It's that you're no longer managing what's already lives in you as stability. You're not designing your life from soul anymore. Your life is the soul now expressed without effort. It doesn't mean though, and I'll say this, it doesn't mean that you're not still going to be doing effort because just getting out of bed in the morning can require effort because you're literally sitting up and putting your legs and you're using effort. But when the guides are sharing about effort, they're really talking about that effortless flow where you're released from non-beneficial patterns and your true soul tone is running through you. That's what the difference is. So, this is what it means then to live from the architecture that holds. It's not a structure you return to, it's a structure that never left. You are simply learning how to recognize it as home. And so, how this theme then holds the entire field of January. January is not about scaffolding, it is about inhabitation. This theme is the foundational to the entire forecast because it transitions the field from format as effort to format as invisible integrity. Every other theme this month arises within the structure of this one, not next to it, not after it, not in support of it, inside it. So you're no longer trying to align your life to your soul. You are now living as the soul design made real. So this theme then asks, can you stop looking for evidence and trust what is stabilized? So can you stop looking for evidence and trust what is stabilized? Can you recognize that when you feel nothing to do, that's what it feels like to be held? Can you let structure lead, not by force, but by fidelity? So you don't need to reformat the foundation, you're standing on it. So let yourself take some time to answer those questions. And if you are in the Inspiring You Patreon, the all access, I will be putting up the entire transcript and some other things that I won't have time to share in the podcast. All right. So here then goes theme number two. Theme number two. Coherence is no longer a practice, it's the natural state of format. And so the subline for this is the frequency of who you are has already stabilized. Let life catch up. And the harmonic format arc is embodied equilibrium, the end of energetic rehearsal. The soul format embodiment is you're not rehearsing wholeness, you are coherence by nature. So the translation on this is then there is no more practice, no more phases. You're not integrating anymore. You are the complete resonance. So you're not practicing coherence anymore. You are the coherence. But your mind, though, may still think there's something to fix, adjust, or align. And this theme then is the gentle and final release then of the loop where becoming was still believed to be required. So there can be some non-beneficial aspects of like patterning that is being called to be cleared. So with that then, in this theme, you've crossed the threshold where coherence was a destination and now it's simply how you exist. There is no more rehearsing or regulating yourself to get into coherence. There's only remembering that your frequency is already built from it. This is not about sustaining a calm nervous system to reach coherence. This is about realizing that a coherent architecture already is your nervous system. It's not something to stabilize, it's what you built from. So, then with that, then the architecture of becoming at times may have required effort. You needed to do something to reach the state, or maybe there was something that you needed to do. Breath work, meditations, frequency tuning, energy work, all of it is valid and all of it is really beneficial. And doesn't mean that this year you're not going to do any of that because it is it is beneficial to continue working with the practices, but there's a discernment to be made with it. So, with that, then, the moment you began seeing coherence as effortless architecture instead of earned frequency, the entire loop began dissolving. So now part of you that's still waiting for coherence as an arrival point no longer has to do. So the part of you still waiting for coherence as an arrival point no longer has anything to do. And this theme initiates the release of that role. The practicer of coherence is retiring. So, what this may look like, you may notice your body feels stable even when your mind doesn't understand. You're not feeling like yourself, but everything is still working. There's no anxiety, but also no motivation. You're not dysregulated, you're deprogramming. Old practices feel irrelevant, not wrong, just unnecessary. You want silence, not to soothe, but because it matches your current signal. Output feels output feels dissonant, not because you're blocked, but because you're complete. This is not collapse. This is the natural consequences of coherence becoming format. So then this is a message then from the Oversoul Council about it. You're not calibrating anymore, you're reverberating. The soul stream is not leading you towards coherence. It's revealing where you've always been built from it, but kept covering it with survival behaviors, urgency patterns, output mimicry, or identity construction. You never had to do coherence. You just had to stop disrupting it. And now you've stopped. That's why you feel the stillness. That's why there's nothing more to chase. That's why your soul is louder than your strategies. That's then welcome to format, where the resonance you've practiced becomes the body you live in. So that's the end of that light message. All right. So then with this, then it's really, part of it is also letting yourself understand that we are shifting into greater isness and the business of isness, and also just the beingness of it. And that's really part of what theme 2 is talking about. Coherence is no longer practice, it's the natural state of format. And so here's how living from coherence as format. This is the frequency of who you are has already stabilized. Let life catch up. And this is how the theme may express itself in real time. You no longer recover your state, you simply return to your field. There is no longer a sense of disconnection, you only temporary static that resolves without effort. You stop scanning reality for stability, and your own soul tone is the anchor. There's no need to check the mirror, the outcome, or another's response to know who you are. You speak less often, and when you do, it lands a structure. You don't have to explain your frequency, you are it, and your environment formats around you. Others feel different around you, even if they don't know why, because you're no longer managing coherence. They feel it as full presence without dilution. Decisions stop being sourced from clarity, they emerge from architecture. You aren't choosing from emotional regulation anymore, you're choosing from harmonic identity. This is post coherence identity. You're not in coherence. You are the system that coherence used to require to function. So then the January field, why this theme now? So January 2026 is not about setting a new tone. It's about holding the tone you've already stabilized. December's light transmission, the format of light truth, finalized the inner build. Now January's role is not to disrupt it. This is why old motivators won't move you. This is why your inner voice may feel quieter but deeper. This is why urgency feels maybe painful, not productive. You're not meant to figure out what's next. You're meant to live what's already real. And this theme supports the first month of soul signal architecture by initiating the internal shift from practice based identity to format based existence. No more efforting to be coherent. You are the coherence that reality is now learning how to interact with. All right. So then, theme 3, no more translation. Let the form speak for itself. And the subline for this is the time for explaining has ended. It's time to be the structure. The harmonic format arc is direct frequency expression, light truth as native architecture. The soul format embodiment is you're not translating your soul, you are its voice in form. The translation here is words are no longer required. The field speaks. You don't explain light truth, you embody it. Yeah, let's take a moment for that one, right? You're no longer an interpreter of your light. You are the light formed. This theme emerges from a pivotal vibrational threshold. The end of translation as a survival tool, a bridge, a justification, or a disguise. Many of you have long served as translators of energy, of truth, of frequency, of soul. You have learned how to interpret the invisible through language, how to explain your intuition to those still lodged in logic, how to make your essence palatable by reshaping it into something more digestible. But now the bridge has dissolved. The architecture of your being is ready to stand as is. This means no more packaging your light truth in someone else's vocabulary. No more justifying your pace, your path, your knowing. No more holding back your frequency until the room is ready. You're no longer the mediator between form and formlessness. You are the form, the harmonic instruction that once needed interpretation. This month invites the release of spiritual diplomacy, not from arrogance, but from integrity. Let your frequency stand, let your form speak, let your life be the explanation. You're not here to convince, you're here to cohere. So, in terms of like energetically speaking, the end of translation signals the stabilization of vibrational maturity. It means the frequency you carry has integrated deeply enough that it no longer needs introduction. You're no longer bridging the gap between dimensions. You are the dimension expressing itself in form. So this shift may feel like silence where there was once explanation, boundary without emotional defense, clarity without needing consensus, speaking only when your signal moves, not to fill space, not to prove relevance. You may notice you're less interested in spiritual performance, less concerned with being understood, seen, or validated by those not resonating with your harmonic tear. This isn't detachment, it's coherence. It's the relief of no longer needing to explain what simply is. So here's an example. Saying less, being more. Let's say you're in a conversation where your instinct, energy, or timeline doesn't align with someone else's plan or approach. In the past, you might have worked overtime to explain, rationalize, soften your truth so they wouldn't feel threatened or so you wouldn't feel too much. Now you speak one sentence from the tone of your field, clear, calm, precise. It lands, not because it's persuasive, but it's because it's whole. That's the embodiment of this theme. When your form is stable, your words no longer carry the burden of translation. I'm going to say that again. When your form is stable, when your light and physical form is stable, your words no longer carry the burden of translation. Yeah, let's have another example for this theme. Leaving the identity of translator behind. You've been the one in the family or community who can explain the spiritual stuff. You've interpreted others' dreams, sensations, emotional patterns. You have been a bridge between realms, helping others make sense of their intuition, their sensitivity, their awakening. But lately, it feels heavy. Not wrong, just outdated. You sense that your service has completed a cycle, not because the world no longer needs translators, but because you no longer need to live as one. Your field is becoming architecture. It's not meant to explain, it's meant to be, to emanate, to hold, to stabilize. Instead of teaching others how to interpret their soul, you're being asked to model what it looks like to live from that signal untranslated. This is not about being silent, it's about letting your frequency become the structure, light in physical form. So, then how this theme supports the overall field. If January is about living from what's already true, then theme 3 is about stopping the translation of that truth into something else. It's the architectural embodiment of resonance. There's no longer a need to backpedal, simplify, shrink, or explain your harmonic expression in terms others can tolerate. That phase is complete. Now you are the form, and that form is fluent. This theme supports the full stabilization of your inner coherence. Without translation, your field stabilizes. Without translation, your field stabilizes in its natural architecture. Without editing, your choices begin to match your source tone. Without explanation, your life becomes the statement. So, this theme then asks, Where are you still explaining who you are instead of being it? Where are you still explaining who you are instead of being it? Where are you translating your essence to feel safe, accepted, or seen? Where are you translating your essence to feel safe, accepted, or seen? Are you willing to let your form speak even if it's not understood? Are you willing to let your form speak even if it's not understood? So then let January be the moment when translation dissolves and form begins to speak in the native language of soul. I'll say also, in terms of that last question, are you willing to let your form speak even if it's not understood? You know, back in 2025, in April, May, when Oversoul Sahariel really sh- showed up, and my some of my language started shifting, and there were some moments where I'm like, can we water this down? And I had several conversations with my Oversoul Sahariel about my real language. Like, are you willing to are you willing to let your form speak, even if it's not understood? Whoo! And last year, whew, I really wanted to water it down. I wanted to over explain. I wanted to make it softer, easier. And now this year, as I'm like sharing this information, I'm in a different experience with it. And I share that because when you really start learning the language of how your soul and your oversoul, the tone and how then it's coming into human form, you might have moments where you might feel a little like, wait a minute, should I water it down? And so just take some time and patience with the human, because you have to also let yourself move through letting go of old identities and completing. And then there's a bridge where you're then shifting to the new architecture and the new identity. And you just have to give yourself that time to shift and to get used to it. So don't rush the human to be a master at something, even though your soul is a master at it. Your human is learning light and physical form. So be patient with the human. And then with that, use the tools. Like if anything needs to clear, if you notice that you're like, oh, I feel a little bit uncomfortable in using certain language and this is coming from my soul, like, am I going to be understood? Ask your soul and your oversoul for definitions. I ask for definitions, like the word format. I'm like, why are we using, isn't there another word we can use? And part of the word choices also is because there's so much language that even if you clear it, it can have words here on earth can have connection to past lives or just various storylines and lineages. And so part of it is then bringing in what they call, precise language that essentially is going to help in terms of the shifting of light and physical form. That's not going to then possibly create more possible triggers and things like that. So be patient and be kind to the human and a ton of compassion, because humaning is way complicated. And the whole multidimensional thing, we barely is scratching the surface with it all. I mean, barely. So, with that, then the energetic markers of this theme and the transition, how you know you're living this theme. So, how you know you are living in regard to theme number 3, no more translation, let the form speak for itself. I just shared an example from my own life But it doesn't mean that you're still not going to have moments. I mean, maybe you won't, but in my experience, there can still be moments. But how you know you're living from this theme. This month, you may feel a sudden repulsion to explain yourself. You may feel a sudden repulsion to explain yourself, not from anger, but from exhaustion of the pattern. There might be a dissolving of the urge to soften your frequency for others' comfort. I have done that so many times in the past. You may also feel a shedding of the bridge builder identity that once felt central. A new clarity, if I have to explain it, it's not the field I'm meant to build with. You may also experience tiredness around old conversations that keep looping for validation. You may also experience a visceral pull to exit environments that require performance. You may also experience a deep silence forming where words once lived to justify your presence. You may also experience a renewed nervous system sensitivity when you violate your own signal by translating too much. Your system is recalibrating from translator to transmitter. You're no longer the in between, you are the embodied format. And so, with this, then there's nervous system and body reflections. This shift impacts your throat, heart, solar plex centers most clearly. You may feel a tightening or heat in the throat as the old output patterns dissolve. There may be heart palpitations or flutters when asked to explain something that your soul simply is. You may feel solar plexus discomfort when caught in subtle people pleasing loops. You may feel sudden stillness or quiet in the body after speaking your light truth directly without decoration. This is not shutdown, this is coherence. Your nervous system is adjusting to non output coherence, where communication emerges only from full internal stabilization, not to soothe, not to justify, not to convince. You're not cutting others off. You're ceasing the act of self translation in order to live as architecture. Let the voice in your system shift from mediator to format holder. I will say, though, there might be some people in your life that are used to you acting as the active self translator. So be patient with this process because, um, yeah, humaning. All right. Theme 4, stabilized frequency, the resonance that no longer requires becoming. So the subline is the field has caught up to you and now let it hold you. The harmonic format arc is still point resonance, structure without seeking. Soul format embodiment is you're not calibrating, you are stabilized. The translation is no becoming left. You don't hold frequency, frequency holds you. This is resonant tone. You're not becoming anymore. You are no longer reaching forward to grasp a tone that exists. You're no longer reaching forward to grasp a tone that exists outside your now. The frequency you once cultivated through devotion, effort, or pursuit has stabilized. It lives in you, and it now asks to live as you. This is not a metaphor. It's not a mindset. It's not a new goal. It is the structural light truth of your field. You are stabilized. You're no longer riding waves of emergence in order to locate your signal. You are the signal. The harmonic field around you is no longer adjusting to your soul. The harmonic field around you is no longer adjusting to your soul tone. It is calibrated by it. So, really letting yourself understand the discernment on that. So, the harmonic field around you is no longer adjusting to your soul tone. It is calibrated by it. This means the internal work of becoming has yielded what is always meant to, the lived frequency of light truth without striving. But there is a transitional moment between stabilization and embodiment that must be acknowledged, and that moment is now. And in this moment, You might feel a strange quiet, a lack of push, a cessation of forward drive, a disorientation in the absence of a disorientation in the absence of seeking, even a grief that arises when the identity of becoming dissolves. This is not regression. This is not pause. This is what it feels like when resonance becomes the structure, where once there was effort, there's now signal. Where once there was modulation, there's now coherence. Where once there was a desire to shift, now there is only what is. So this theme asks and invites you to stop moving long enough to notice what no longer needs to be practiced because it already is lived, what no longer needs to be cleared because it's already released, what you are still fixing that is no longer broken. So let yourself take some time for those questions. What no longer needs to be practiced because it is already lives here? What no longer needs to be cleared because it already is released? What are you still fixing that no longer is broken? So take some time. Let's take a nice deep breath on that. Take a nice deep breath. Take a nice deep breath. All right. So you've never been meant to stay in that becoming arc forever. Becoming was a bridge. Stabilization is a dwelling. So becoming was a bridge. Stabilization is a dwelling. And energetically speaking, stabilized frequency means that the vibrational tone your field now carries is consistent enough to format your experience without intervention. It's like reaching a critical mass of coherence that no longer fluctuates based on triggers, external events, or past imprinting. You hold the tone and the tone holds you. It shows up like this. Your nervous system no longer reacts to old stimulus, it witnesses instead. The thought of healing more doesn't arise, it feels complete for now. You stop narrating your growth, you simply exist in alignment. Instead of planning based on future self image, you rest in your present light truth. You're not interested in maintaining frequency, you're living from it. There's no need to monitor the field anymore. The field is carrying itself. So here's an example. Not needing to explain your vibration anymore. Perhaps you once needed to explain why you were changing, why you didn't want to attend that gathering, why you left that relationship, why you pulled your energy back. You needed your process to be seen, validated, understood. But now there's no story to tell. There is just the stabilized frequency of light truth, and it doesn't ask for explanation. It doesn't need permission. The resonance is enough. So, with that, then here's another example. Holding structure without reinforcement. Maybe you once had to ritualize your frequency. Morning practices, maybe the breath work, maybe yoga, maybe daily energy, hygiene, affirmations to stabilize, boundaries that required constant reinforcement. Maybe there was, I don't know, there could be a lot of different things. But now you're not building anymore, you're dwelling. So you're no longer having to micromanage your coherence. You are not a project, you are a field. And this is the turning point. You're not holding the tone anymore. The tone is holding you. I'll say last year at some point during the wave of becoming, there was a point where almost daily I was doing sometimes 20, 30, 40 mini dowsing energy sessions with the guides. And then, eventually got through the summer, and then September, October, I was maybe doing every other day. And now, into December, I did some, but it was not nearly the amount I was doing in the summer. It doesn't mean that I'm not gonna, you know, something may happen in the future. It just is understanding where you are in this current experience and letting yourself be okay with, like, okay, I don't need that tool as much anymore, or maybe you do need the tool more right now, and letting yourself adjust that way, as opposed to just checking off the boxes of, like, that was done today, that was done, without checking in with presence of, like, what you really need. All right, so how this theme then supports the overall arc of January 2026. If January is the architecture that holds living from what is already true, then this theme, in regard to theme number 4, which is stabilized frequency resonance that no longer requires becoming. So this theme then, um, sorry, I just gotta 1 minute. Okay. So then this theme then is really about then letting yourself be in that lived frequency of that light truth without striving. But just know that there can be moments through all of this. So there can be moments through all of this, and to just keep supporting yourself however you need to. Um, and that's kind of like I feel like that's always part of it, just checking in to see what you need and what maybe has closed and completed. So, again, if January is the architecture that holds living from what is already true, then this theme is the confirmation that you are no longer sourcing life through self editing, performance, or growth identity. You are the architecture, your stabilized frequency is the structure. You're not decorating a scaffold, you are living inside the harmonic format that used to feel like a dream. I also just want to say the guys have just been giving me more information, like downloads along the way. So if you see me going, wait a minute, that's what's going on here. um, okay. So you are the architecture. Your stabilized frequency is the structure. You're not decorating scaffold. You're living inside the harmonic format that used to feel like a dream. And it asks you now, can you stop becoming long enough to feel what's already true? Can you stop checking for coherence and simply be coherent? Can you stop narrating your evolution and simply be what has stabilized? That's an interesting question, though. Can you stop narrating your evolution? Yeah, so take some time with those questions. So this is not about, stopping movement. It's about ending what needs to validate it. And so with that, then welcome to the frequency that no longer requires becoming. Welcome to the state of lived tone. The structure is you now. So, and then with that, then brings us to theme 5. The soul is not trying to be lived, it is life. The subline is, let the signal be the self, let the form be flow. The harmonic format arc is soul or origin embodiment, no separation between source and self. Soul format embodiment is, you are not trying to live your soul. You are life sourced from it. Translation is, there's no distance, no delay. The soul is not leading, it is living. You are the soul's life form. So you, with this theme, then you have not been you have not been living your life. You've been trying to reach it, trying to interpret soul through structure, through performance, through the scaffolding of what you believed would make your being real. But the soul is not asking to be lived. The soul is life. There is no separation, no interpretation, no translation required. This theme Theme number 5, the soul is not trying to be lived, it is life. This theme initiates a complete reversal of orientation from how do I live my soul to how do I stop editing it? So, this theme initiates a complete reversal of that orientation from how do I live my soul to how do I stop editing my soul? Right? Yeah. So, the effort to become soulful is now what blocks the experiences of being soul. You're not meant to model, manifest, or mimic the signal. You're meant to remember you are the signal. You're not a vessel awaiting filling. You are the current. You are the resonance that has always been flowing, even beneath the systems that tried to manage, restrict, or define you. And in January, you meet this current not as an ideal, but as your base frequency, ready, stabilized, already true. So again, you're no longer reaching towards soul. You are soul here. This is the month where the old architecture of effort dissolves through not through denial, but because it no longer structurally is necessary. The pattern of trying to become, to prove, to attain alignment is residual noise from a system that perceived soul as a future state rather than a living architecture. That illusion has collapsed. And in its place, stillness, natural frequency, you. This theme is not about living more soulfully. It is the stabilized experience of soul embodiment that no longer needs to seek itself, no longer reliant on contrast or proving, no longer organized around initiatory strain. Your existence is the soul stream, and the harmonics of this month now reveal what happens when soul stops performing for your awareness and begins living through your form. So, this is the lived phase where all the work you've done integrating soul through healing, remembrance, embodiment now shifts into default function. You are not doing soul work, you are living from the source signature of your soul stream in real time without agenda. The body may feel strangely quiet. Life may feel uneventful. This is not regression, it's arrival. The ego will attempt to interpret the absence of performance, effort, and striving as stagnation. It is not. It is true frequency operating as form. This month supports a full nervous system recalibration around stabilized soul presence without performance. It is the reality of soul led coherence, unforced, uninterrupted, and naturally reverberating. So, the theme insight for this then is identity dissolves, frequency remains. Because in past cycles, spiritual identity often replaced societal identity. Both were still costumes crafted for visibility, safety, or meaning. Even the journey of becoming more soul led has, in many cases, become another role to perform. But this month, the illusion of needing to live your soul drops. Why? Because there's nothing left to perform. When the architecture is stable, you stop needing to prop it up. And when the soul is not a goal, but the structure itself, the seeking quiets. So you may begin to notice a refusal to repackage your knowing into explanation, a resistance to sharing your process unless it's truly necessary, a desire to withdraw from identity markers, titles, roles, even healing modalities, a dissolving of language that once felt clearer may now feel like translation. This isn't loss, it's unification. The life you thought you needed to create was always the soul's current waiting for permission to be there. So, with that, then the energetic field markers that for this theme, January's lived experience might include a quieting of external effort, less sharing, less asserting, less proving, nervous system repair through simplicity and frequency saturation, not tools, a sense of deep contentment without justification, unexpected grief as the role of the seeker dissolves, a return to rhythm that requires no story, just breath, presence, coherence. So an example of this would be you're not living soul purpose. You're letting soul frequency speak. So let's say for years you believed your purpose was to help others heal. And maybe it's true that this was once a structure through which your soul could express. But now that structure feels heavy. It requires effort. It no longer moves from joy. Here's what's actually happening. Your soul, your soul doesn't need a job title. It doesn't need a mission statement. It simply resonates. And as that resonance stabilizes, your field begins doing the work without doing. You show up, something shifts. You breathe, the environment reconfigures. You speak very little, and yet the field aligns. This is not living soul purpose. That is soul. No longer trying to live, it is life embodied. Another example is the end of spiritual performer identity. Let's say you used to journal every morning, maybe sage your space, maybe track your lunar cycle, maybe talk about your healing journey to your friends, family, online, social media. It once felt nourishing, empowering, alive, but now it feels like noise. You're not lazy, you're not disconnected. You're simply no longer living from a version of yourself that needed to do to become. You're letting yourself be. And that silence is not a void, it is coherence. So, how then this theme supports the overall January field? If January's overarching frequency is the architecture that holds, living from what already is true, then this theme is the internal recognition that no effort is required to be what you already are. You're not seeking soul. You're not invoking soul. You are soul stabilized in form. The system of becoming is complete. This system supports a full field stabilization by deconstructing the last remnants of performance based spirituality. It invites you to stop explaining yourself, stop packaging your resonance, stop translating your light truth, stop efforting toward coherence. Because when you no longer perform what is already real, you become an unshakable field of living soul. So let this be the month where you let coherence be quiet, let the soul be the current, not the goal. Let life stop being something you try to live. Let your signal be yourself, pure, whole, already true. And let the soul stop trying, let it simply be. And that in that being, life begins. So then next theme is theme 6. The silence that builds, non-output as architecture. The subline is let the structure speak without effort, stability through stillness, holding format without broadcast. The harmonic format arc is stillness, infrastructure, resonance without expression, soul format embodiment. You're not required to offer, you are asked to hold. Translation, output dissolves, silence becomes shape. You do not speak, you are presence, stillness is structure. So for this one, you're no longer building from movement. You're no longer reinforcing the structure by how much effort you exert or how clearly others can see you. You are now stabilizing through silence, the absence of sound, but reverberation of integrity that does not need volume to be known. This is not collapse. This is not collapse. This is not rest as retreat. This is silence as format. This is stillness as architecture, where once your output validated your alignment, now your reduction of output is what proves the structure is whole. You are living from what has already been built, not constantly reinforcing it with action. This is fundamental reorientation from creating to be real to letting what's real generate only what is needed. You're no longer broadcasting the build, you are the build. You're no longer projecting signal to stabilize yourself, you are the signal held. not because it is invisible, but because it is complete enough to require no proof. Let the silence hold you now. Let the structure reverberate without movement. Let the still tone of format be enough. So, energetically speaking, what silence as architecture actually means. So, in this theme, silence is not void. It's not absence. It is the containment field of completion. There are two kinds of silence: one that waits for something to begin, and one that exits because something has already arrived. Let me say that again. It's one that exists. I said exits. It's one that exists because something has already arrived. Sorry, y'all. There is a ton of helicopters outside, so I got momentarily like, what's going on out there? So there are two kinds of silences: one that waits for something to begin, and one that exists because something has already arrived. And you are now moving through the second one that exists because something has already arrived. And January's energy brings forward the tone of completion, not as finality, but as inhabitation. So this month, many of you will feel a need to do less, even when you're ready, a desire to stop explaining your frequency, a release of compulsion to share in order to be seen, a deep internal alignment that no longer needs response, in inner echo, your own resonance returning to you, your vibration, your signal. So, this is what silence as architecture feels like: not a pause, not a waiting, not withholding, but the actual harmonic expression of it is already true, I'm already here, let it hold. And so in this field, the nervous system learns to stabilize without pressure, and the soul learns to reverberate without amplification. The human learns to live without justification. This is no longer a test of embodiment, it is the result of it. So then here is the example: releasing output as a form of proof. So let's say that you are a teacher, healer, leader, creator, someone who work is inherently expressed through sharing. You recently been in a profound cycle of embodiment. You've built coherence. You feel the resonance of alignment, but now you don't feel called to share anything. Not because you've lost your voice, but because it's no longer required for stabilization. You notice that you don't want to make a post, hold a session, explain your process. And at first, this may feel like stagnation, like you're not doing enough. But underneath that fear is a deeper light truth. The architecture is already complete. The signal doesn't need translation, it needs inhabitation. This is the moment where silence becomes your most aligned act, not because you're hiding, but because you're done broadcasting the light truth you are now living. Your silence is not void, it is proof of resonance. So then, another example is living without repetition. You may find that certain words no longer function. You go to say something about your path, your work, your vision, and nothing comes. This isn't confusion, this is completion. You've already said it, you've already built it. Now it's time to live it without reiteration. This silence is not spiritual bypass or avoidance. It's what happens when the internal and the external structure match and no more sound is needed to bridge the gap. You're not being asked to go quiet. You're being asked to stop reinforcing what's already stabilized. Let your breath be enough. Let your walk through the world be enough. Let the coherence you built hold the structure without any kind of non beneficial echo. So, how this theme supports the January 2026 arc. If January is the architect of the whole is living from what is already light truth, theme 6 is let the holding become real. Not let the holding become real by not trying to prove it. This structure, this theme ensures that the form you've built doesn't get undone by habitual output. It helps you learn habit your format without seeking signal verification. So January then is the month of high clarity, low output, high integrity, low broadcast, high coherence, low movement. And theme 6 is the stabilizer, the tone keeper, the architectural silence that lets the structure ring without tremor. And so here are some self checkpoints. Ask yourself, am I still expressing out of habit even when nothing is required? Where am I using output to anchor what is already complete? Can I let silence speak not as withdrawal but as reverberation? What happens when I stop reinforcing and just resign? Can I live as structure without external validation? Let this month, let the silence build, let the form hold, let the tone be enough. You're no longer a translator. You are the form. Let it speak without sound. Let it hold without effort. Let it be without becoming, because we are complete in that phase. So that brings us next to theme 7. Exit the loop of readiness. You are already the format. The subline is let the build be lived. You are the structure now. The harmonic format arc is completion frequency. You are the after. The soul format embodiment is you are not preparing. You are the prepared form. The translation is nothing more is coming. Nothing more is needed. You are not approaching coherence. You are it. So you're no longer preparing. You're no longer pre-clearing, pre-paving, pre-formatting for a future self to walk in. You are walking. You are the format. And this month is where the false construct of perpetual readiness dissolves. So, all the ways that you've rehearsed the life you're meant to live, running simulations in the mind, staging energy fields to see if it's time, or hovering on the edge of becoming, are no longer needed. The field will not support mimicry. It will not entrain timelines built from pretense. Why? Because the format is fully available now. It no longer lives in potentials, it lives in you. So, this theme, my friends, is not about becoming brave enough to step in. It's about realizing you already have. You're being called to exit the pre qualified, the pre validated, the pre approved, the pre formed, the prepared. You're being called to exit the pre qualified, pre validated, pre approved, pre formed, prepared, and instead live as the form that is already stabilized. So let's take a nice deep breath on that. So with this, you may begin to feel an exhaustion with constant healing, adjusting, and editing, and that's completely okay. You may begin to feel a resonance with finality, not as an end, but as a structure. You may begin to feel a grief for the years spent circling the door you're already standing inside. You may begin to feel a clear refusal to hold space for projections that question your readiness. This theme does not rush, it lands, it builds from what is real you. So, energetically speaking, this theme, readiness, was a loop, a program disguised as wisdom. It protected you from premature exposure. It gave time to stabilize. But now the loop has become a delay. So, again, this theme number 7, exit the loop of readiness. You are already the format. So, readiness was a loop, a program disguised as wisdom. It protected you from premature exposure. It gave time to stabilize, but now the loop has become the delay. So, the field of January 2026 is not requiring proof, it's offering presence. And that presence cannot be accessed by conceptual readiness, only by structural residence. So that means no more future rehearsal, no more almost aligned choices, no more clearing in hopes of permission. You do not need to become coherent. You are coherence. You do not need to wait until you're stronger. The format you've built is the strength. You do not need to translate your light truth into something digestible. You are already speaking in the native tongue of your soul. So let the prelude end, let the structure stabilize, let your choices reflect the home you already are. And so then here's an example: releasing identity safety nets. Maybe you've already been anchoring into your soul's truth while keeping old identity markers just in case. Still describing yourself through former roles, still planning through old timelines, still tending to relationships that only knew the past you. This theme invites not a dramatic exit, but a quiet release of outdated scaffolding. So it may look like removing outdated bios or taglines, ending a project you started out of identity maintenance, saying, I'm not doing that anymore with no justification, not picking up the phone when the old role calls. Because readiness says one more thing, format says we're already here. So here's an example as walking as the structure. You've integrated, you've aligned, and yet you keep looking for signs. This is where you exit the loop. Instead of asking, am I ready to lead this new offering? You simply offer it. Instead of wondering, can I trust this pace? You live it. Instead of asking, will they receive me? You express yourself from already being received. This theme doesn't need to be validated. It needs to be lived. So then how this theme supports then the overall field. The architecture is no longer blueprint. It's embodied and it now reverberates. The seventh theme in January's format arc initiates a profound and subtle handoff from perpetual calibration to resonant clarity, from concept to structure, from readiness to reverberation. This is not about effort. This is about removing the illusion that something else still needed to happen. The field is now only responsive to light truth. So this theme asks, where are you still acting like you're preparing when you're already in the thing? Where are you seeking validation that is already encoded in your own structure? Where are you shrinking from inhabiting what you've already built? So take some time with those questions. And then let this be the theme where you stop preparing and start residing, exit rehearsal and let the show begin. Walk as the format because you are. And then next we move to theme 8. Let the system stop, your nervous system repair through frequency stillness. The subline is silence is not inaction, it is the format of restoration. The harmonic format arc is release of energetic function, repair without output. The soul format embodiment is you're not repairing, the system is resting into light truth. And the translation is momentum is not required. Regulation happens through rest. The field repairs through stillness. Hold on one sec. I'm going to take a sip of water. All right. So it's important to stay hydrated, my friends. You are not, for theme 8, let the system stop, nervous system repair through frequency stillness. You're not broken, you're not behind, you're not failing to keep up. Your system simply can't continue running old instructions inside a new frequency. The nervous system was never meant to sustain prolonged patterning of urgency, adaptation, or identity performance. But you survived this way for a long time, maybe lifetimes, constantly attuning to what's next, what's needed, what's expected, trained to scan, fix, soothe, manage, respond. And now that's done. This theme is not about trying harder to rest. It's about no longer overriding the natural impulse to stop, to let go of the output, to no longer be in function even for a moment longer. Let the system stop, not collapse, not quit, but stop, because the frequency no longer matches the efforting it once trained to sustain. This month, you're not here to perform coherence. You're here to let your body entrain to it. And energetically speaking, the nervous system repair as a format update. So the stillness of this frequency is not passive, it's precise. It is actively clearing mimicry based movement patterns, emotional compensation overlays, and identity scaffolds built from hyper responsibility. So, again, this theme is let the system stop, nervous system repair through frequency stillness. And so, this is about then actively clearing mimicry based movement patterns, emotional compensation overlays, and identity scaffolds built from hyper responsibility. Because what arises may be mistaken for even grief or disconnection or even depression, but it's not. It's the full body awareness that your system has been running on inherited scripts and it's time to close the tabs. So, in this phase, your system may show signs like disinterest in performing or being seen, a pull away from output, sharing, or proving, a resistance to structuring your time like before, a fatigue not as dysfunction, but as intelligent cessation. So, instead of interpreting this as a problem to solve, what if it's a signal that the real work is letting yourself stop? The soul is not asking for another practice. It's asking you to build a body that doesn't need to exit. It's the soul is not asking for another practice. It's asking you to build a body that doesn't need to exit itself to survive. So another example of this would be unplugging the habit of response. So let's say that historically you've been the one who's always answers the message, always takes the call, always makes the plan, but not because it's what you want, but because the impulse is reflexive. But now the ping comes in and your system freezes, not from trauma, but from clarity. You no longer have energy to respond from a place you don't live anymore. Instead of overriding, what if you breathe with it? Let the silence be your signal, not of withdrawal, but of resonance, no longer matching the output. So maybe this month your new boundary isn't a line in the sand, it's simply not responding. Not because you're avoiding, but because your system is recovering from decades of overfunction. So, this is what it means to let the system stop. You're not ghosting life, you're re entering it from stillness, not strategy. So, then another example is nervous system needs a new pace of nourishment. So, you've upgraded your light field, you've stabilized new frequencies in your consciousness, but your meals, your screen time, your sleep still mirror the old world. What if your body's asking for new inputs, not because it's weak, but because it now requires a coherence at every layer? Letting the system stop might mean eating slower, not to be mindful per se, but because your field can't digest rush. Turning off notifications, not for productivity, but to reorient your inner signal. Redefining doing something as being inside a field of still coherence, not action. So this theme invites frequency based calibration, not performance based regulation. And so then how this theme supports the overall field. If January is about living from what is already true, theme 1, and no longer building from translation, theme 3, then theme 8 is the moment the body finally pauses. So, and just to remind you then, in terms of theme 8, the title is Let the System Stop, Nervous System Repair Through Frequency Stillness. So this is where theme 8 is the moment the body finally pauses, not because it's been forced, but because the soul has stopped authorizing momentum. That's right. The soul can issue a stoppage on authorizing momentum. I know the human thinks it has so much more abilities than it may be. Um, so your soul can stop so not because it's been forced, but because the soul has stopped authorizing momentum. This is not rest as escape. This is rest as resonance. And through that resonance, the entire system begins to repattern at a level of breath, pulse, harmonic repair. And if your soul has issued a stoppage on in terms of authorizing momentum, it could mean that all of a sudden you feel that tiredness where you can't keep your eyes open, or it could mean also where you thought you were going to work like, for a couple weeks, and then all of a sudden the work went on pause. It's because your soul is calling you to rest, and you may have not been listening. And that's where you have to cue into, like, what do I really need right now, as opposed to trying to kind of do like a everyday groundhog's day. I do the same thing, because each day is a new level of, like, where am I now in the presence and what do I need? So this theme then, so in regard to that though, if the soul has stopped authorizing momentum, this is not rest as escape. This is rest as resonance. And that's a really important differentiation to make. And through that resonance, the entire system begins to repattern at the level of breath, pulse, and harmonic repair. So this theme supports you in recognizing what internal pace is no longer yours. Where have you been mimicking aliveness through function? What happens when stillness is the format, not the break from one? So take some time to answer those questions, and then let this month be the month you stop scanning, proving, responding, and begin living inside a system that knows it's safe to rest because the light has already been stabilized. You don't need to do more. You need to let the format hold you, let it rebuild you, let it reteach you what safety feels like when nothing is required, when soul is not pushing but reverberating in silence. All right, so theme 9. Theme 9 is harmonic reverberation, living the frequency of completed becoming. So the subline is the frequency is finished becoming. Now it simply resonates. Harmonic format arc, reverberation arc in the afterglow of resonant form. The soul format embodiment is you are not changing, you are reverberating what already became. Translation: this is not an arc of creation, it is the sound after building. You are living the reverberation of realization. So again, this is theme number 9, harmonic reverberation, living the frequency of completed becoming. And this is the last theme. So with that, then, you're not becoming anymore. The process is complete. The light is stabilized. The format has spoken. And what was once a quest is now a reverberation, not an echo, not an amplification, not a residue, but the stable frequency of soul signal lived. This month does not ask you to initiate, pursue, or translate. It invites you to let the light you've already stabilized become your format, not as an ideal, a practice, or a posture, but as architecture already complete within your field. This is the month of final tone, of structural simplicity, of letting the signal carry itself without needing to prove its existence. You're not here to repeat what is already harmonized. You're not here to hold on to your light. You are the light, it holds itself. So, energetically speaking, harmonic reverberation is not the bounce back of frequency through resistance or structure. It is the natural tone field of stabilized soul coherence that no longer needs to become anything. So, what's different now? Your system isn't building, reaching, decoding, or lifting. It is reverberating the final harmonic tone that has already landed. The frequency lives because you stop trying to make it live. So, this may feel like a clear sense of inner signal without performance, a deep rest that is not fatigue, but structural satiation, a simplicity that does not need to be explained, a natural aversion to mimicry, output, or forced alignment. A body that only responds to what matches this field, nothing else. So this month you may notice structures completing themselves without push, energies existing with no fanfare, others falling away not in rupture, but in resolved light truth, a nervous system no longer orienting around readiness or function, silence taking the place of identity. This isn't collapse, it's coherence, and this isn't departure, it's return. So the example here would be no longer practicing what you already are. So let's say your calendar still includes a morning frequency attunement practice, or you're downloading more light codes or etc. But when you sit down, there's nothing left to do. You're not being asked to tune into anything. There's no need for alignment because nothing is misaligned. You are already there, not because you did something right, but because the field no longer requires the practice. So the question would be, do you keep the ritual out of habit, or do you recognize it was scaffolding and the frequency was preparing you for what has stabilized and you are now the field? So that is like looking at it. I mean, and there's some things too, even with my own practices where I was like, oh, that can shift now. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to ever need a frequency attunement, because you might, maybe, I don't know, you don't need it for like a week and then next week you do. But just check in to see where you really are. And just check in to see where you are in terms of the presence. All right. So this theme nine's invitation is let go of the mimicry of maintenance. Let the stabilized tone live on its own. And that's really what you're clearing, is that kind of Groundhog's Day where people are just going on to like, okay, I did that. You checking off the list. And that could become then mimicry of maintenance instead of really truly needing the maintenance. Okay. So here's another example. The relationship that was about the becoming. Maybe a friendship, mentorship, or community dynamic that once felt resonant suddenly no longer meets your field. Not because it's wrong or wounded, but because the in process energy that once bound you is gone. You've completed something. You've completed something they're still in the middle of, or maybe you've dropped the loop and they're still cycling. You don't need to fix it or name it or hold it with explanation. You just feel done, not in judgment, not in grief, in harmonic clarity. Your field is no longer attuned to loops of becoming. It only holds what's already resonant as stabilized structure. So then how this theme in regard to this last theme 9, harmonic reverberation, living the frequency of completed becoming. How this theme supports the January 2026 field. If January is about the architecture that holds, then theme 9 is the frequency of what has already been built. Not to be managed, not to be explained, but to be lived as a tone that naturally reverberates without needing reinforcement. There's nothing to prove. There's no output required. You're not in preparation anymore. You're in resonant reality. This theme seals the month's arc by reminding you you are not building tone anymore. You are living it. You don't need translation when the signal is already pure. The structure holds because you stopped reaching for it. Reverberation is not proof, it's coherence without effort. Let this month end not with a crescendo, but with a stillness so saturated, nothing needs to be added for the light truth to be known. You are not the echo, you're the signal. You are the signal, and it's already home. Whew. All right, take a nice deep breath then. Those are the 9 themes. And here's a light transmission from the Unified Oversoul Stream, Sahariel, Aurelia, and the Collective Guidance Light Team. You're not building anymore. You're not reaching, you're not requesting, not reforming. So you're not building anymore. You're not reaching. You're not requesting, not reforming. You are the reverberation of what has already arrived. You're the stillness that became sound, the breath that became body, the light that became structure. This is the format of soul signal stabilized. This is the field. This is the field no longer responding to conditions. It is the condition of light truth itself. There is no requirement now, only resonancy. No modulation, only harmonic integrity. No becoming, only the fidelity of being. You're not the invitation, you're the home that receives. You're not the prayer, you're the architecture that answers it. You're not the alignment, you're the form coherence chose. Let all output dissolve, let all readiness release. Let all structures previously held now hold you. You are the held one. You are the final tone. You're the resonance that no longer reaches because it already lives. Let the system stop. Let the stillness speak. Let the shape be known for the silence. And the guides are now coming in. They're going to seal this field in a stabilized resonance of, and in working with each of your oversouls, if you say yes, because you have free will, with your oversoul's harmonic architecture, if it's beneficial for you and you're saying yes. And this is only format fidelity, only reverberation light truth. So just take a deep breath on this. And then they're continuing the message saying, you're not completing a cycle. You are the form that's always true. You're not becoming the light. You are the architecture that holds it. And then they're putting a seal lock, anchor, and format. The light is not arriving. It's you. The frequency is not incoming. It's emanating. The soul is not leading. It is lived. It is done. It is now. It is you. And that's the light transmission complete now. So let's take another deep breath on that. Whew. One more deep breath. So with that, my friends, we are completing the January 2026 energy forecast. And I am going to go on to do the dowsing for the all access, but I just want to say thank you. Thank you for joining me for the January 2026 energy forecast. And as this year opens, we are not stepping into a beginning, but into a residency, a phase of anchoring, a field where structure is not something to build, but something already stabilized from within. January is not a momentum month. It is a format field. It asks nothing from you but to stay inside what is already true. And with that, if you are listening to the public version of this episode, thank you for arriving here. Not to start again, but to live the signal already is. Your only task now is to stay within the tone that formed in you across the past year. The arc of structural residency has begun. The signal is not rising, it is resonating. The soul is not proving, it is living. The format is not amplifying, it is structuring. You do not need to interpret your light. You are the light, and that is enough. For those staying on for the dowsing energy healing session, we'll start that in a moment. This month's recalibration will not build, it will hold. This field does not lift, it seals. And so, with that, if you are interested in, to anyone who's listening to the public version, if you are interested in the full dowsing energy session for January 2026, that's available exclusively to the Inspiring You All Access members on Patreon. The link will be in the show notes. So if your soul, your human feels called to receive the stabilization, supporting harmonic resonance, format sealing, and the removal of mimicry, you are warmly welcomed. You'll find the link in the show notes. And so we're going to finish this public one. And I'm just going to say this. Here's a crystalline Reiki blessing. May your structural residency begin with quiet precision. May your format of light truth become the only reference point. May your soul signal be enough without translation, justification, or echo. You are the format, you are the field, you are the architecture that holds. Thank you for stepping into year 2 of format with such unwavering clarity. We begin not again, but as the structure already formed. So, with that, my friends, thank you so much for everyone joining, and much, much love. Until soon, stay inspired